and to the public auditor and your team. It is now 10:09 a.m. and I call this budget hearing into order. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce the members of this committee. We will start off with my far left. We have Representative Leila Staffler. She is the chairwoman for education. To her right, Representative Christina Sablan, chairwoman for health and welfare. To her right, Representative Ed Probst, chairman for gaming. And to his right is floor leader, Representative Ralph Yumo. The chair, Donald Manglonia, my vice chair, Representative Ivan Blanco. And then moving over to my immediate right, Representative Vicente Camacho, the chairman for Federal and Foreign Affairs. And to his right is Representative Richard Lizama, the chairman for PUTC. Oh, and we also have joining us is Representative Selena Babalta, chairwoman for JGO. With 9 members present, that constitutes a quorum to conduct today's budget hearing. And so with that, I'd also like to introduce the LB staff assisting the committee today. We have our senior legislative assistant, Ms. Claire Sablan, our fiscal analyst, DG Rabago, our legal counsel, Joe Tyrone, our IT, Jonathan Diaz, and Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Dennis Regis. All right, with that, members, can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda? Motion was placed and seconded to adopt today's agenda. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to the next item. Good morning, members. Good morning, Public Auditor Peter and Ms. Ashley Cost. The members of the committee had requested several agencies to come today to answer some of the questions that the members had in regards to the proposed budget based on the department's submission as well as the governor's proposal under the general fund and something new to the committee, which is volume 4, the American Rescue Plan. And so you were invited to basically shed some light on your requests and to see if there's additional requests that wasn't included in the initial submission and something that the committee can consider should you need additional funding or should there be any concerns that we have regarding the budget submission. And so with that, before we begin with questioning, I now invite the public auditor to provide any opening statement, should you have one prepared.
Good morning, Chairman Manglonia and committee members. I am here today to represent the Office of the Public Auditor for this budget hearing. For FY 2022, we have submitted our budget requesting for $2.5 million, which includes an estimated calculation for 1% funding source from the general fund as well as from the autonomous agency, which includes CHCC, CUC, CPA, CDA, NMC, MPOT, and NVA. Just for context, OPA is funded through an allocation of 1% of all locally generated funds. Any encumbered funds are remitted back to the general fund at the end of every fiscal year, as required by Article 3, Section 12 of NMI Constitution. OPA has always received 1% allocations from the general fund, but the autonomous agencies have almost never made their 1% payments. However, we have been made whole with our expenditures through the general fund. We have kept track of uncollected balances from respective autonomous agencies since 1996, which today cumulatively is estimated to be approximately 30 million. While OPA has no claims to the full amount nor able to claim prior fiscal year uncollected balances, these amounts are due to the CNMI government. Consequently, the failure of autonomous agencies to make the annual 1% contribution means our office has not had any stable funding source dating back to the late 90s. Inadequate funding has caused OPA size to shrink. In 2004, OPA had 5 audit managers, 14 audit staff members, 2 attorneys, 5 investigators. Currently, OPA has 1 audit manager, 8 audit staff members, 1 attorney, and 3 investigators. I will add that we do have a JVA for 1 additional audit manager currently open. Further, the austerity measures and the lack of competitive benefits and salary compensations has caused OPA to lose 4 employees over the last 2 years. While OPA's available resources have dwindled, the demand for OPA's skill sets have never been higher. In the past few years, OPA has been delegated additional statutory requirements, such as running the Citizen-Centric Report, also known as the CCR, for the CNMI government, as well as assisting in all elections. Today, OPA increasingly receives special requests for special reports, audits, and investigations, which causes backlog. OPA envisions these requests will increase as the amount of federal aid coming into the CNMI increases. Our lack of funding does not allow OPA to address potential unanticipated increase in workload, nor does it give an opportunity to develop a strategic plan with stable funding resources. However, if we can be more proactive and intentional in the collection of our 1% fee, we will be able to address changing demands of our office's scope of work. To aid in funding this year as well, we became more proactive in seeking grants. We sent 3 of our employees to grant training put out by the Office of the Grants Management. We applied for subgrants for the TAP grant as well as the JAG grant. Although we did not receive the TAP subgrants, we were just awarded with the JAG subgrant to send 2 of our investigators to the Inspector General Institute to receive their certification as Inspector General investigators. Kudos to our team for putting the grant package together, and this is really a testament of taking initiative to seek out resources. Let me shift to our focus areas. OPA has been focused on these priorities since my appointment at the beginning of the year. We've been focused on closing out pending audits and investigations. We also, at the beginning of the year, I hosted a strategic planning offsite. We had a 3-day offsite where the team was focused on looking at the processes and identifying ways to become more efficient and productive. We are aggressively seeking support and resources to improve on our building infrastructure. As far as hiring staffing needs, we currently have hired backfills and currently, as I stated, have an audit manager position open. We are working on formalizing a stable budget, working with the Secretary of Finance. And then we are developing a plan for our 1% fee collection. The team will be drafting memos and setting up meetings with agencies to discuss a plan and get commitment. We will also be developing a 5-year and strategic plan this year. We have a consultant and support from the Pacific Association of Supreme Audit Institutions coming up, and we definitely are looking forward to that. We will also be kicking implementation of audit management and investigation systems. I did indicate initially this year that I wanted to focus on a digital transformation, and we are well on our way to getting that going. Lastly, it's always important to ensure that we continue to develop our team members, including knowledge transfer, sending the team to training, attending conferences, and then also really evaluating our processes, looking at ways to standard our process and focusing on lean. At our offset, we had a lean exercise mapping our audit and investigation processes, eliminating areas of waste and unnecessary work. For example, we recognize that what may take 30 steps that go through our audit process, we can do it in less than 20 steps, which includes savings and time. Also, when I had our offsite strategy meeting with the team, I had a call to action for each and every one of us. We will engage and deliver value. We will simplify and build quality into our work, and we will attract, develop, and retain our team. Furthermore, our team is focused on shifting to proactively overseeing financial activity and providing education to the government and community on government spending. This also includes educating on preventing and detecting fraud, waste, and abuse. Our team is focused on leveraging our resources internally as well, having the audit and investigations team collaborating more to ensure that we're utilizing our resources effectively. And this includes in the collaboration of compiling data and information so that we're not duplicating efforts and overwhelming agencies. Lastly, our team will be executing on a plan to better engage with autonomous agencies to oversee financial audits and also address the 1% fee. We will start incorporating agency findings on our arts report that we send out twice a year and ensure that we're following up on action plan. We have a lot of work in front of us, including engaging with the Secretary of Finance to ensure newly received ARPA funds are being distributed and expended in accordance with federal mandate. In closing, we believe that getting our audit and investigation system in place, stabilizing our workforce, getting commitment to collect on our 1% fees, increasing our engagement with the finance organizations across the CNMI, and continue to develop our team, we will be able to contribute to increased accountability and transparency with government spending while improving awareness on the prevention and detection of fraud, waste, and abuse. Thank you, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Peter, and thank you for such an informative opening statement. Before I begin, I'd like to just get some clarification. How much did you mention is owed to OPA from autonomous agencies?
So cumulatively, what has not been paid is approximately $30 million, going way back to 1996. So on average, year over year, I would say at least $1 million is our shortfall based on the uncollected 1% fee.
All right, thank you. And
But I also want to reiterate that the 30 million will not come to the public auditor's office, but will be remitted according to the Constitution back to the general fund.
recognize the floor.
Just for clarification, of the 30 million that's uncollected, is it CUC the majority of that?
CUC has a bigger
It's
balance, correct.
A large amount.
Yes, I will say that in 2003, if I'm not mistaken, the CNMI government did an offset with CUC for approximately 3 million. So a way for them to cure some of their past due, they were able to offset, I believe it was utility bills with the 1% fee.
All right, thank you. Your initial request back in April, the agency had requested as you mentioned, around close to 2.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you had also requested for 25 positions. It looks like there are currently 10 vacant positions.
Correct.
Have any of those been filled?
The plan right now is to not rush to ramp up the team, but really look at right-sizing the team. And that includes coming up with our audit plan and ensuring that we have a sustainable operation to ensure that we are not fluctuating year over year, especially when it comes to bringing on additional headcounts.
But with the influx of federal funds, and based on preliminary analysis of the American Rescue Plan, it looks like the proposal under ARPA comes out to a total of 1.7 million, which based on the 1% for all agencies, how would you plan to use that additional 1.7?
So I believe the 1%, if you think about it, really makes us whole from a general fund standpoint. In the past, we've always been covered by the general fund for any 1% allocation that we do not receive from the autonomous agencies. So 1% is basically what the general fund would provide to us anyways. We initially had estimated the general fund allocation to be 800,000 as to what we would submit. Great to hear that we will be getting 1.7 as part of the ARPA plus the general fund this coming year. But that still leaves us with approximately $1.5 million due to be collected from the autonomous agencies.
All right. Thank you. So clarified. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the members. I recognize Representative Sablon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Ms. Peter, Ms. Cost, and to everybody in the OPA team here today. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. So I wanted to follow up on the chairman's question regarding ARPA funds. Could you just provide more clarification for the committee on, what the discussion with the administration has been regarding what OPA would be receiving through ARPA? Maybe we can start with that.
So over the course of my meetings with the Secretary of Finance, the 1% will be coming from general provisions that are provided for through the ARPA. So as you're aware, there's special provisions that are also allocated as part of the ARPA funding. Not everything is going to come in the form of the 1% allocation. We're only going to get the general provisions that are allowable based on the ARPA ruling.
Okay, and did you submit any additional requests to the administration for those ARPA funds for your infrastructure improvements that you mentioned, or personnel hiring, and was there an actual request submitted by your office?
No, I have been communicating. So I've been proactive in communicating the needs of our office. Mm-hmm. And with that, they have been also proactive in helping us identify funds that they can get from the general fund.
Okay. And so we just received the administration's revised submission as to, I guess it's dated July 2nd. Have you had a chance to, and one of the notes in the executive summary includes mention of a 1% OPA fee that would be allocated for the payment of government utilities. So it's 20 million allocated for utilities, inclusive of the 1% OPA fee. Are you anticipating other additional ARPA funds for OPA? And then what would be your plan for those funds?
Not that, nothing above what was already presented in the plan.
Okay.
And like I said, the 1.2 is really just getting us close to our initially proposed budget.
Yeah, okay. Do you expect to hire more auditors?
We definitely want to.
Okay.
Again, we are identifying the needs that we will have with regards to the monitoring of ARPA funding.
Mm-hmm.
Given that it is short term, we want to be also careful in how we ramp up with our headcounts and ensure that if we do, we are able to sustain our workforce so that we don't have to reduce in the next year or two.
Okay. And my final question, you mentioned that digital transformation of the government is underway.
Yes, it is.
I would love to hear more about that. Could you?
So fortunate for us, the CNMI government is also going through an ERP implementation. And our team and I had gone out and looked at demos of available audit management system as well as investigation system. And so leveraging what the CNMI has, leveraging the project team that they have, we actually sought out inputs on whether or not they had an audit management system available. Lucky and fortunate for us, they did. So we did have, we requested a demo from them. And we had everybody on the team sit through the demo, and everybody was excited with the offerings that they had with the package. We're able to at least now document time management, how much time we're spending on various audits and engagements. We're able to process and store files and send workflow of electronic data within the software. And on the investigations side, it's basically, from what I hear, what they have been looking for to help them process their own reporting requirements.
Okay. Oh, great.
We expect to kick off the implementation in October. So hopefully, once the finance and CNMI government go live with their system, we will then get in on the next phase to implement.
That's very exciting. And sorry, I actually do have one more question, Mr. Chairman. In previous budget proposals, we had included, at least on the House side, an administrative provision that would allow the Secretary of Finance, working with the Office of the Attorney General, to collect and enforce the 1% with the autonomous agencies. Would you recommend that we attempt to reinsert that? Do you have any suggestions for that part of the budget?
I absolutely, we would definitely agree to having some sort of a provision to ensure that we are, as I mentioned, being proactive and intentional in the collection of the fees.
Thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. Just one more before I hand it over to the members. Currently, as of second quarter, where are you at with your collections, and are you operating in the red right now? How does that?
I think so. As I mentioned, we always start. We at the end of every fiscal year, whatever we were owed or should have been owed, goes back into the general fund. So every year, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we're reset back to zero. As of the current period, we have not had any of our payables, our expenditures get denied from the Secretary of Finance processing of those. I wouldn't say we're in the red, but we have not collected anything from the autonomous agencies. And that's why I also indicated in my opening statement that we do have plans to reach out to the agencies and work with them and start communicating the collection of 1%.
And right now, do you have any auditors? And if so, how many are assigned to just overlook or oversee the ARPA fund?
So we have not assigned specifically any one person at this time. We are working with the Secretary of Finance to understand what resources they have already put in place so that we can insert ourselves and work with them. So in other words, rather than standing up an entire new team, working with the Secretary of Finance to leverage the existing resources, but knowing that we have a separate function and we are required to be independent in how we support and monitor the ARPA funding.
All right, thank you for that. And just for informational purpose, members, the initial request or the initial proposal in which OPA was supposed to receive from the general fund was at $809,000, but based on the revised budget, which was received last Friday, OPA stands to receive $993,804. So, for informational purposes, floor is now open to the members. For the first round, I'll go with Rep. Lezama.
Thank you, Chairman, and welcome, Public Auditor. It was a fine sentiment. Your statement was wonderful. The problem is collecting that 1%. What about your personal sustainability? I mean, I've seen a new guy up here. So is it much be concerned to perhaps kind of bring up their salary so they can stay in place and so they can do the right thing and do a good job? What is your opinion on that?
I agree, and I did mention that we will be. My goal and focus is to develop our team and also retain them. And yes, that will have to come in the form of compensation, and that will come with doing benchmarking and studies on the appropriate levels and rates that that basically align with the required job function.
Okay, so one more question. The 1% that you haven't got from especially the autonomous agency, is there any way maybe the legislature can say for those people who have to jack up a little bit, upgrade it to 2% so that you can recover some of those deficits that have not given to you? What is your...
I won't decline that offer.
But anyway, it's something that we need to do, correct? And I know
Correct.
you have a program coming and it will start soon. But thank you. I thank you for your information.
Thank you, Rep. Lalama. For the first round, I recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and good morning, Public Auditor, Ms. Coast, and your team members. Do you have, or are you proposing any funding for your continuing professional education for your staff?
Part of our budget does include sections on training and definitely continuing professional education, and that is required by audit standards. And we're also very fortunate that we do have a very close network with the APIPA and also through the graduate school that they are able to offer web training at free of cost. And then every year we are given an opportunity for 40 hours of training where 2 instructors will come on site. We're currently planning for that here in October. So we have means to obtain CPE without having to expend a lot of our funding.
Very good, very good. Would you be able to open such training opportunities for, say, members of the LB?
We certainly can.
Okay. And in your letter, there's a letter that indicated the needs of the office, and one of them is the building improvements for potential health hazard mitigation. Would you just expand on that, please?
So I was hoping that we could have a meeting with the committee at our office so that we can provide some observations in terms of how our office looks like. But we've not had any improvements, I would say, for the course of 20 years. And we have falling, peeling paint. Our carpet is no longer blue. And we just really need to bring it up to standard.
So currently you have 15 staff
Mm-hmm.
this is us. Okay, so
Actually,
aside from the
17, yes.
aside from the investigators who have their own building,
Mm-hmm.
your auditors and admin are together in one building.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hire additional staff, then it will be very, very tight in that
Correct.
the main building. Yeah.
So let me elaborate a little bit on our plan. Currently, our plan, there's a building right next to us, building 1220. We just received approval to switch buildings with the Homeland Security so that we can get that building. Our plan is to have our administrative team move up to that building. And we will also enhance that building to have a training center where we would like to invite people for training sessions and hold ethics training in that particular center as well. But that would allow us to be able to have the audit team grow with sufficient workspace, and then also the investigations team.
And your proposal for the $100,000 would be adequate for that?
No, but we do have I do have reprogramming authorization, and so right now I know that we're underrunning our budget, and I have the ability to move funds to be able to cover for the cost for that. We already have been working with DPW to obtain estimates. We've obtained estimates for 2 of the 3 building. We're waiting for the last building to be, estimated here this week.
What will be your higher number without reprogramming?
600,000, I'm sorry, 600,000, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Public Auditor Peter. Mr. Chairman, now you.
Thank you, Vice. For the first round, any other members? I recognize Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome everybody. Just got one question. In your September 2019 audit report, OPS shows a variance of 610,493.
Mhm.
Was the variance due to underfunding or overspending?
I would say underfunding. Year over year, in fact, last year and the year before, our budget was about $2 million. So I would say that's due to being underfunded. Again, resulting from the uncollected 1% from the autonomous agencies.
Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. I now recognize Rep. Selena Babalta.
Thank you, Chairman, and welcome everybody from OPA. Question, how many auditors are you seeking, new positions for auditors in the current budget?
So we've already backfilled for positions that were vacated. We increased by 1, and I do have an audit manager position outstanding. We are evaluating whether we would go up additional 1 head or 2 heads for this year.
So how many FTEs is that?
So about 2,
In addition to how much?
what we already have.
How much
yes.
how many do you currently?
So we have 8.
8 plus 2, so 10 auditors is what you're looking at for this
Mhm.
fiscal year. How many investigators?
We have currently 3 investigators, and we're in the process of interviewing for 1 more position, which we will be holding this week.
Okay. 10, 14. So if you were given through the budget process these number of positions for auditors and investigators that you're seeking for, would you then be able to support House Bill 22-33, which is currently in the Senate? I understand you wrote comments for that, that OPA does not support it because you do not have the personnel currently to do audits for ARPA.
I would say we are addressing the ARPA spending by currently working with the Secretary of Finance, and as I mentioned, leveraging the resources and the team they have in place to be able to, for the reporting side and the requirements of ARPA, we should be able to manage with the resources that we have. Again, the focus is not so much to increase the headcount to meet the objectives, but leveraging and utilizing the resources existing in the government to be able to carry out on our mandate.
Thank you. That makes it more efficient and
Yes.
yeah. Okay, are you familiar with 1 CMC subsection 7831? Council, can we put that up on the screen? You mentioned that you were working with the Secretary of Finance to collect these, $30 million of the autonomous agencies that haven't paid since 1996, if that statement was correct.
Yes.
So this section of the law, and I suggest you work with the Secretary of Finance about it, requires the Secretary of Finance to withhold from each autonomous agency for the collection of their 1%. So it appears that the Secretary of Finance is not following the law. I just wanted to put this up for informational purposes. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. So this would be your avenue to collect that. And even in this fiscal year. That's it. That's all I have. Chairman, I will yield.
Thank you, Rep. Babalta. For the first round, For the second round,
I'm sorry,
rec-
can I just go back to your comment? Also, B of that same section does require the executive directors to also pay to the public auditors. So I think it goes both ways for Secretary of Finance as well as the executive directors of the public or the agencies.
Yes, I agree.
All right, for the second round, I recognize Rep. Sablon.
Yeah, thank you. And this, I guess this goes back to the administrative provision that we were discussing earlier. So the challenge has been, correct me if I'm wrong, the challenge has been that for funds that that go directly to, that the public corporations collect themselves and have their own bank accounts for, the challenge has been getting those executive directors to remit.
Correct.
Right, okay. Thank you. So I wanted to ask a follow-up question on the additional hires. You're looking to build up your team. Are you also looking to, I know OPA at one point had at least 2, maybe 3 attorneys. Are you looking to hire more attorneys as well?
Yes, we have a
Okay.
plan to hire one. And we actually, I should mention that we do have an outside counsel
Mhm.
on a part-time basis. So we are filling up our legal needs by leveraging our outside legal counsel. But yes, our plan is to have a local presence.
Mhm.
Right now, he's supporting us remotely,
Okay.
but we definitely hope to bring on board a local person or somebody hired locally so that we have on-site local support.
Okay, and then what's going on with procurement appeals? Can you give us an update on that? I know that's been an issue and was a subject in court.
Do you want to take that, Ashley?
Let's just-
Okay, so I can talk about procurement appeals. I was not expecting that at all. But so in regards to procurement appeals, historically, OPA has decided procurement appeals for the central government and other autonomous agencies because they've been designated to do so through regulation. So we recently took a stance in a Superior Court case saying that we actually, looking at the situation now, don't think we have jurisdiction to decide this, because in order to decide procurement appeals, it should be something that is assigned to us by the legislature, not various agencies through their regulations. So like a common sense thing is you just can't have, agencies write into their regulations telling other people to do things for them. That's not how administrative law works. It would have to be a designation from the legislature, either saying that that agency is allowed to delegate that authority, or specifically requiring OPA to decide procurement appeals, which is what happens in Guam. In Guam's OPA does decide procurement appeals, but it's through because there's a statute requiring them to do so. So we took that stance recently because we think it wasn't like essentially an improper delegation of power through regulation. And additionally, because OPA CNMI, as opposed to OPA Guam, has a special duty to investigate fraud, waste, and abuse of government funds, that potentially causes conflicts of interest in some situations. Like you can imagine, if there's a procurement appeal and then we're also investigating that same situation, there can be confusion, conflicts of interest. I mean, it'd be a lot easier to say, oh, we'll just wall it off. But when we have a limited staff of, 3 investigators and 1 attorney, it's a lot more difficult to start walling things off. So that's why we took that stance. We have been making progress since we took that stance. The central government Department of Finance has promulgated new regulations, writing us out of procurement appeals. We are currently meeting individually with the autonomous agencies to nicely ask them to rewrite or to amend their current procurement regulations to write us out. So CPA, MBA, PSS, the procurement appeals all go up to the board. That's what we're suggesting to CUC, CHCC, NMHC, and NMC.
So all of the autonomous agencies also had OPA written in for deciding procurement appeals.
Which has
Okay.
also been a big drain on our resources.
Sure.
The idea that we spend a ton of time doing something that legally we're not even required to do, it's just something someone wrote in the regulation, which we obviously did for 30 years. I mean, we did it for 30 years,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that it was done correctly in the first place.
Right. Okay. So I'm just curious, if OPA is not doing procurement appeals, then who is?
So now, what will happen in central finance, what happens is you would protest it to the director of procurement and supply, and then he would issue his director's decision. And then if you appeal it, then it would go to the secretary of finance, and then he would decide it. And then if that is appealed, then it goes to Superior Court.
Okay. Okay,
So,
that
yeah.
makes sense. All right. And so my next question, just going back to your staffing, you mentioned, Ms. Peter, that you are reviewing the compensation schedule and working to make packages more competitive for recruitment and retention. Could you talk a little bit more about that? And like, do you have any estimated fiscal impact? Will that review be happening this year?
So I think we have enough buffer in our budget to make adjustments for the next fiscal year. So as contracts are renewed and we have conversations around the compensation, what we do want to look at too is the performance, and make it more performance based. And that really would tie into the ability to work off of a scale of any potential percentage increases.
Okay, thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. I'll take one more for the second round. If any of the members have anything else they would want to ask. All right, if there's none, I just have one more. Under your proposal, you've requested under travel 12,180. I just wanted to ask, how much support or how much resources do you provide to Rhoda and Tinian? It seems like 12,000 is kind of short to send down auditors or investigators down to Rhoda and Tinian and to provide the support to Rhoda and Tinian. And so how are you addressing that?
So currently what is in the budget is only for inter-island travel and support. We do have an estimate number of trips to each island. We need to do better at being proactive in going out to the islands. And we are also coming up with a plan to identify and assess the financial risk on the islands. And again, the budget is an estimate. And so if we feel we need to move and reprogram funds, we will do so.
All right, thank you for that. All right, members. So as we deliberate, I think there was a proposal for next fiscal year, adding a provision that that will require Secretary of Finance to withhold in the preceding fiscal year any funds that has not been remitted. And so as we deliberate, I hope this is something that we will forward to you and get your support if that's something that OPA agrees to, and to hold accountable our agencies in remitting those OPA funds or the 1% fee. And so with that, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Public Auditor and Ms. Koss and your team for coming today. I realize this is your first budget hearing, and so thank you for shedding light and answering the questions that the members have in order to better understand some of the challenges that your agency faces and how we can support that. And so with that, at this time, I would like to offer you again the floor. Should you have any closing remarks?
just thank you for the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of the office with regards to our budget needs, and also giving us the opportunity to share a little bit more of the plan that we have in place, and just forthcoming with regards to improving the scope of work that the team will be executing on. Thank you.
All right, thank you again for that. All right, members, at this time, I will now excuse the Office of the Public Auditor and we'll call a short recess while we prepare for the next agency. Thank you again to the Office of the Public Auditor for coming in today. Short recess. rise back into recess or from recess. All right. Again, good morning and welcome. We had just finished the budget hearing for OPA, and now we have the Office of the Attorney General. And before I hand the floor over, I'd like to inform the members that we will try to keep this under an hour and hopefully finish by 12. And so we'll go 2 rounds should the members require additional questions based on the testimony. And so with that, I'd like to start off by, first of all, welcoming you, Attorney General Manibusan, as well as members of your team. Based on the agency's request and what was proposed by the governor, it looks like, according to the initial request, I understand that there is a revised budget which is being analyzed right now, but based on the initial request, the Office of the Attorney General had requested for 2.8 million for fiscal year 2022. Considering the proposed general fund and ARPA, the OAG stands to receive additional $500,000. And so this is something that we would want to, I guess, hear to see what the plans are for the additional $500,000 and provide any clarify questions that the members may have. So before we begin, I'd like to hand the floor over to you, Attorney General, to provide any opening statements, should you have one.
Buenos dias, Mr. Chairman and members of your committee. Thank you for inviting my office to discuss our fiscal year 2022 budget. This is an historic day, actually, because like the public auditor, I'm here for the very first, my very first public hearing for a budget hearing. I do apologize for not having a prepared written statement to present to the committee, and I will rely on our budget submission I submitted to Planning and Budget Office. I have copies available if any of you would like to have a copy for your use and information. I also have members of my staff here, and if I may, I would like to introduce them at this time. Seated to my right is Dixie Camacho, who is the Victim Witness Coordinator. She's been with our office for many, many years. Our Chief Prosecutor, John Bradley, to my right. And John is leaving us in the next few weeks. And of course, he's going to need a replacement, and I intend to replace him in the next few weeks. I also, on my left, is Deputy Tenorio, who has been my deputy for the last 6-7 years. And next to her is Tina De Leon Guerrero, who's the Administrative Services Manager, and Carla Hokuk, who's the Grants Manager, and now handling some of the human resources issues in our office. So our fiscal year 2022 budget submission took into account the governor's budget code that estimated the government's net resources at 96.5 million. We submitted a budget in the amount of 2.8, and that's consistent with what we were budgeted in fiscal year 2018, 2019, and 2020. In the current year, right now, our budget is at 2.1 million. The OAG, our office, managed to perform under the current budget. We work with the autonomous agencies to pay a portion of the Assistant Attorney General's salary. We had lapses from vacant attorney positions. The savings from personnel costs helped pay for our communications, our utilities, bar association membership fees, expert witnesses, recruitment and repatriation of attorneys, and all other operational costs. So our primary goal in fiscal year 2022 really is to fill all vacancies And there are a number of reasons for that. We have seen an increase in number of legal services requests to our office. As you all know, we have 15 executive departments. We have a number of autonomous agencies that we represent. We have agencies that we do represent within the executive branch. And so our workload has actually increased. And so our primary goal is to fill all our vacant positions and add 5 other positions in fiscal year 2022. You can also tell how delayed we are in providing legal services. As you may experience yourselves, we have not provided you adequate, pursuant to your requests for comments, that we have almost always delayed our comments to their committee and to the legislature. I would like to use the money that's going to be available in fiscal year 2022 to fill all our vacant positions. Vacancy is right now with the chief of the Attorney General's Investigative Division. That has been vacant for several months with resignation of our chief. And Urbano Babauta is current acting, and we have only 1 staff with him. So there are 2 in that division. I would like to see that we have 4 members altogether. That would be not sufficient, but it would be sufficient enough to do our daily activities, such as serving summons, assisting the officers at trial, and doing a number of things, small investigative matters for our office. We also would like to fill the vacancies in the Victim Witness Advocate office that has been vacant for a number of years or months now. And they're currently in need of additional personnel. So in order to fulfill our duty and our obligation to represent all of the current the executive branch and agencies and the people of the Commonwealth in criminal cases, in recent weeks, we were advised that the OIG has been allocated ARPA funds. The amount we believe will be sufficient to carry all our obligation in fiscal year 2022. And I thank the Planning and Budget Office for their assistance and guidance. I hope that you and your committee, Mr. Chairman, approve our budget as presented. And I invite you to ask questions of my staff. They're here to assist the committee. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney General, for your presentation this morning. So before I hand over the floor to the members, I just have a few clarifying questions. Your initial request for personnel was at 55.
Yeah.
How much of those 55 FTEs are currently vacant?
I think we have, right now, we have vacancies. We have, how many? In what positions and what divisions are they? Okay. So I think we have vacancies with the chief investigator. We have vacancies in the criminal division, administrative division, and we have vacancies in the civil division, and we're asking for 5 additional NLPs in fiscal 2022.
So now you're looking at 60 total FTEs for the next fiscal year?
Yes.
All right, and just one more question before I hand over the floor. What does the current turnover rate look like in regards to your AAGs, and is a challenge more of a pay, or is the AAG's office being kind of like a lot of these positions are a stepping stone for these AAGs, and so can you just provide any clarity or any insight as to some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah, I think there are many reasons why they come and why they leave. We have a beautiful place to begin with, and I think this is a great place to work. Excuse me, to work and experience new legal theories. Excuse me, and some of the reasons why they leave is because the contract just ends, or that they need to go back to their families.
So in regards to pay, I mean, we see the governor's requests every now and then to increase his salaries. Is that sufficient in the amount of work they are required to do? And what this the average in the nation, or maybe even in Guam, does an AAG, earn compared to how much the CNMI is offering?
So our salary range depends on your experience and when you graduated from law school and when you're barred. This is a very competitive field, and we're competing with Guam, with other places, and so maybe John can help me with explain some of this.
Good afternoon. I am in a kind of unusual position to answer that question. I served as a prosecutor in Texas for about 25 years, working as a line prosecutor, then as a first assistant, and eventually as an elected district attorney. After I retired from that, I served as the Attorney General in the Republic of Palau. And I ran that office and recruited lawyers for both the civil and the criminal division. After finishing there, I went back to Texas and then took a job here and have served for the last 2 years as the chief of the criminal division, and have assisted in recruiting and looking at trying to increase retention. And you're absolutely right. It's a very common, complex problem in the Pacific. I've actually thought about this quite a bit, and when I recruit and interview people, I try to be as transparent as I can about what the difficulties people will face and challenges, because I don't want them to come here and not finish their contract, or just finish their contract and leave, because I think that in the long run damages the ability for these agencies to provide good services over a long time. Salary certainly is an issue, but almost there's no way you can raise that salary to compete with whatever someone's going to make in the United States, nor should you, because it's not the same market. And I tell people that very upfront. But as the Attorney General says, you have a wonderful advantage here, and that is this place. It's very attractive. Out of all of the places that I've worked, I can easily say this has been the most enjoyable job I have had, both in terms of the office, of the interactions that I've had with the agencies, but also just in general with the people and with the land. So your own Commonwealth sells itself very well. And anyone who comes here is going to have to deal with the changes in salary. You have very good benefits. I was very impressed that you could have health benefits. You have a retirement if you stay, and the way that people are compensated to come here and help deal with the transition is very fair economically. You get an upfront payment that helps with the transition. You get some payment for some shipping. You do not pay for housing, and in Palau, I was provided with pay for housing, but I think the difference is in the salary anyway. So I don't know that makes much difference. It's just one thing or another. One of the factors, though, that I have dealt with and I see pretty frequently in getting people to either stay or to return is the limitation that's placed upon practicing law here with the government. I have a Texas bar license. Most people, everyone that we hire has a bar license unless they're local and pass the local bar. They're relying upon some other license. And under the Supreme Court rules, once you get here, you're sworn in under that reciprocity agreement, it's only good for 4 years. And so almost immediately when someone gets here, they're having to make this decision about whether to take another bar exam. Some people do that and pass it and enjoy that. We've had a couple people in our office, at least 3 that have taken the bar and staying and will be long-term commitments. But for other people, that's a challenge. I in part left Palau because I was running up against that same barrier 4 years. And I know I've still got 2 years left here, but it's a long-term issue. And one of the things that I would recommend that the legislature consider is simply creating an exemption on that for people who want to stay and work for the government, because they are benefiting your agencies, your entities, and that it's one way you can encourage that longevity. Now, if someone wants to go out into private practice and compete with the rest of them, they should take the bar. They should, follow all the other rules. But if you're working for a government agency, it seems like that might be something you want to encourage people with. The other issues are the ones that the Attorney General mentioned, and that is when you hire someone, they are leaving something behind. They have a family, they have usually children that they bring to them, and it's hard to know whether they're going to commit long term. Some people do. Some people make that transition and stay here. My wife and I love it here and would love to stay, but I've got a 92-year-old father and an 88-year-old mother who are not able to care for themselves anymore, and the guilt kills me. And while I could probably string it out another 2 years, I just can't in good conscience do that. And I regret it. It's a tough decision. I also have 3 kids and a 1-year-old grandchild. My daughter keeps telling me I'm going to miss her first birthday if I don't come back. So they're pulling all of the heartstrings. But those are things that can be dealt with. One of the way that the Attorney General deals with that, I think, is wonderful. Is he's very good with vacations and times away, and COVID has really removed that for a while. It's coming back, and people are going to start taking vacations, and I think that will ease some of that pressure. But those are the thoughts that I have had over that period of time. In the long run, you have to pick people who are willing to commit and willing to engage in a community and not just use this as an internship.
All right. Thank you for that. And thank you, Chief Prosecutor, and for your contributions to the CNMI government. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to the members, and I now recognize Representative Selena Porta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to everybody from the Attorney General's office. One question, how has the governor's unlimited authority affected your current operations? Were you able to pay your vendors on time? Did it affect your office in any way? The 100% unlimited reprogram that the governor has been exercising?
We have not had a problem paying our vendors. I mean, we don't have a lot of vendors anyway to begin with. I think our office basically concentrates on our fixed costs, our telecommunications, our research capability, and so forth. And once in a while, when we have a little bit of money, we'll have cleaners come and clean our offices. John has been having his own cleaners come and he pays it out of his pocket. So we don't have a lot of vendors, and we don't have any problems paying our vendors.
Were there any staff of the Attorney General's office that was furloughed? And are they back?
Yes, they're back and they're very happy. And it was a sad event, right? I think we furloughed about 8 uh, last year, and they're back. When we received this budget call and the budget was at 96 million, we were already preparing for worse than furlough, because we can survive with 96 million, and I figured that the resource of the government is going to be largely way reduced, and so we're looking at reduction in force. But in this budget, I wanted to make sure that we have enough lawyers working for this government. Otherwise, we would have not fulfilled our duties. And I know that agencies of government need lawyers with their daily activities, and so that's the real goal in this budget, is really make sure that the lawyers stay, they get paid 80 hours, and we recruit more so that we can provide the needed services. I mean, I now I see that the government's back. There are so many things happening right now. Agencies are having meetings every day. They wanted us to attend. Yesterday was NMTI. Last night was zoning. The other day was Cannabis Commission. And I mean, they need our presence. And we try to be present in those hearings. Most of the time, our presence will actually not needed because there are no legal issues, but we need to attend to their requests. And I can see now a lot more activities coming in this future with the ARPA funds and the activities that's happening. So I want to make sure that I'll be able to provide the legal services. We've recently started to assist CHCC, and CCS has got a lot of things going on, and we're glad to be part of that organization. But we need help lawyers to help assist them with their legal needs.
Thank you. Currently, the JGO committee is conducting hearings, and the witnesses have appeared with counsel, private counsel. Is the Attorney General's office paying for those counsels?
No, we're not.
Okay. Thank you. It's the revised budget was received by the governor's office on July 2nd, and it appears that the Attorney General's office combined budget submission is about 4.1 million. So I think that'll be enough, right, to
Yeah.
hire all the attorneys you need.
Yeah, that's like, I want to thank whoever is giving us the money. And I'm sure that if we don't use it, it just go back to the general fund. But we certainly have a lot of plans for the money. We have always thought that a case management system is important for the efficiency of the office. We haven't had one because they're very expensive. We couldn't afford them for the last 6 years. The prosecutor's office have been using JustWare, which is a great tool, but the company has now changed to another system and another company, and so we need to engage another service provider. And the estimated cost is about $100,000 just for a small office to build a system. But we needed to spend that money in order for us to be efficient in the work we do.
Thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Mabalta. Any other member? I recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Attorney General, what I do believe we never had a chance to say thank you to you and members of your staff for, your valuable input on bills that we sent to your office. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. Your input is very, very valuable, and it helps us craft better bills. Just the follow-up quick question on the 5 additional NOPs you wanted to fill for FY22. Is that part of the overall department request plus the ARPA? Is that funding included in that?
Yes, it is. Some of the positions that there are vacancies right now. I want to fill the vacancies, and we wanted to add a few more. And I know that ARPA program is going to need more staff attorneys to assist them because it's going to be a lot of whatever they plan to do. I know it's going to be try to spend money, and we need to be in there to make sure that they're they're done legally and correctly, and want to ensure that there will be no waste and abuse of public funds. And so part of the reason for really putting more people, just like the AGID, that needs 2 people because we can't get to the cases that we want because of just lack of resources.
We will be deliberating on that next week, so thank you very much for including that request. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. At this time, I recognize Representative Camacho.
Thank you, Chair. And OAG, welcome. I just have one question. The budgets are gonna look good for the next couple fiscal years, right? So when we bring in all these folks, we pay them well and all that. How are we gonna sustain all that when all this money runs out in the next 2.5 years?
That is a very good question, Representative Camacho, and I hope that they continue, the economy continue to grow because that's basically our revenue source. And I also hope that the government needs to learn how to save money and not spend on things that they don't need. And you gotta save money. You have to build and at the same time save money. If you don't, we're gonna come back to COVID-19 situation where the resource will be $96 million or maybe less.
Okay. Thank you for that. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. Any other member? I recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Mr. AG and Deputy AG, Miss Deputy AG, and Mr. Bradley, and to all your staff here. Thank you for your presentation. My first question has to do with staffing. So of your, is it currently 55 FTEs now on board? How many of those are attorneys?
Tina, can you answer that?
So we have 15 attorneys in the civil division, 8 in the criminal division, plus our attorney general and deputy attorney general. So that's 17, 25.
Okay.
We actually don't have 8 right now. Our goal is to have 8 attorneys in the criminal division.
To have 8.
To have 8, yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that's one of the positions you're trying to
Right.
fill right now.
Yes.
Okay. And then what about your investigators? How's your AGIU staffing?
We have 2 right now on board, 1 vacancy, which is the chief, and we would like to add additional investigator.
Okay. And then the remainder is administrative?
The remainder is just administrative, yes.
Okay. And you said that these furloughs and austerity measures affected the office's operations this past year. Did you have to cut hours for your staff as well?
Yes, the staff were in 64 hours.
Everyone was?
Everyone was 64, except the attorneys.
The attorneys always remained on 80?
On 80 hours, yes.
Did that affect morale? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, people that actually lost their job really was painful.
Yeah.
And of course, management had to make a decision as to how to manage the office, and it had to make a decision. And we faced criticism. It was painful, but we have to move on.
Okay. But everybody has since been restored to
Yes.
80. Okay. Okay. And my next question, you mentioned recognizing that with this new windfall of federal money, that the agencies will be requiring more legal services and staff attorneys. And I was more curious about the broader question of the governor's legal authority to establish an entirely new office to manage these federal funds, the Recovery and Infrastructure Office. The administration is moving full speed ahead with hiring and I guess I'm wondering at this point, is your office looking into that question? Do they have that legal authority?
We are not looking into the issue right now.
May I ask why not?
Because we think that the office, well, the program was legally structured legally.
The program was structured.
Yes.
Okay. So you're not considering it an entirely new office that would require legislative authority?
That's what we think.
Okay. Well, thank you for addressing that. And could you provide this committee also with updates on your collection efforts to pursue unlawful overtime that was paid out after Super Typhoon Yutu?
We are full steam ahead.
Okay. So how many letters have gone out then at this point?
So we're working with OPA on most of these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't remember, but we sent out a number of letters, and we're still not even halfway there.
Oh, so you're still sending out letters?
We
Okay.
are still reviewing the other parts of the report.
Okay. Has any funding actually, or any monies paid out actually been collected at this point, or is it still too early to say that?
Too early.
Okay. And was there, so you're working with OPA, did they actually provide a report then to your office of officials that had been identified as having received these funds?
Yes.
They did, okay. And how many officials were there?
I don't recall.
Okay. Would it be possible to obtain a copy of that report?
OPA's report?
Mhm.
I think it would be possible to obtain a report from OPA.
Okay. Or from your office?
Maybe better if you obtain it from OPA.
Okay, we'll ask both of you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then are you also looking into the matter of double compensation that for certain government officials that, so this was compensation that was paid out for the same number of hours worked. They received pay for their COVID position and as well as pay on top of that for their regular government cabinet member or whatever position. Is that an issue that you're also looking into at this time?
Maybe.
Possibly. Okay. All right. And one issue that was discussed in our previous hearing with OPA was the collection of the 1% fee.
Which one?
The collection of OPA's 1% fee.
Mhm.
And you know, there's been language proposed in the administrative provision of the Budget Act to authorize the Secretary of Finance to work with your office to enforce collection of that 1% fee from the autonomous agencies. Do you have any comments on that? Is that something that your office would be able to provide assistance with?
Yeah, we had discussions with OPA on this matter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so your office would be able to provide
Sure,
assistance if we
yeah,
included that in the
sure,
Budget
yes,
Act?
yeah.
Okay. And then I guess my next question was if there are any updates on the white collar crime public corruption task force. Has there been any progress in your efforts? I know in these last couple of years to try to revive that task force.
You want to talk about it? No. Oh, well, you know, one of the reason why we had the task force was to build resources, right? And because we don't have enough. And so we want to continue to build that resources because there are so many issues that have come to our, our view. And we would like to continue that effort with the public auditor.
Okay. So you've initiated that discussion with
Yes, of course.
this new public auditor?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then finally, it has come to our attention over the course of a number of hearings with all different agencies that I guess the shift in practice from having assistant AGs assigned to a department or agency to now having all of the assistant AGs in your civil division provide legal services based on these LSR, these legal services request forms. So this shift in practice, the feedback that we've heard from a number of different agencies has been that in some ways it's discouraged the agencies, the agency heads and the staff from seeking legal advice because they have to go through these additional steps of filling out a form, waiting for a response, and sometimes they just want to pick up the phone and talk to a lawyer, right? And so I wanted to ask if this is a process that you would consider reviewing to see whether this is affecting the operations of the agencies as well, and if you're not going to go back to the practice of designating assistant AGs to different agencies, is there some other way to just make legal services more accessible to the departments that need it?
Yeah, we've actually have assistant agents assigned to the different agencies. And I have a list of those attorneys that are assigned to the different agencies. And some of them actually are taking care, handling 3 or 4 agencies at a time. Because we don't have enough resources.
So you do have assistant AGs?
We do have,
Okay.
but the process is, when you need a legal advice and opinion, that's not an emergency or that that can be discussed. We would rather have them write a request as to what their legal issues are. And what that thing has helped us is we know what agencies are asking. Some of the agencies have the same issues, and we go to our brief bank and we take it out and say, it's the same legal issue. We are not saying different things to different agencies. So that has helped us organize the legal policies for the government, and also we know what's going on. And then we also know how many agencies we've helped for the year. For example, I have a report here that says, if I may just do this for your information. Let's see. Well, that escaped me, but just for the year, for example, legal comments on legal requests for legal comments from the legislature. We know the numbers, and we know what some of those comments are. Comments to the governor on bills, we know how many and what those things are. Comments on legal advice to agencies on, let's say, on personnel, on contracts. We know how many they are, and we know what the issues are. So that has helped us actually put a brief bank together so that we understand what's going on in this government.
Okay. So I guess.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If I may address, as of.
Sorry, is your mic on?
Oh, it's not. It is now.
Okay.
So the last time I looked at a legal services request was sometime last Friday, or I think Monday, or Tuesday. And it was about 272 for the year. So I just wanted to point that out, that we do keep
272
legal services
Okay.
requests. So, that helps us with keeping track, as the Attorney General mentioned, keeping track of the issues that are presented to our office for legal guidance from the various agencies. It helps consistency, and it helps us develop a resource in which incoming attorneys can review if they have a particular question that's before them. They can go back and take a look at the responses that we've had based on those questions that have been asked earlier by different agencies. It may be the same thing reconstituted in a different form, but essentially the same issue.
Sure, and I can appreciate how having this system improves operations for the AG's office for tracking and maintaining consistency, as you say, and providing this resource. But I guess the question that I had was, you know, if there are urgent issues, if you have a department head that needs an answer to a legal question right away, like how easily can they just call their assistant AG for an opinion or for advice?
For someone who is handling several agencies, I have never turned away or failed to respond to an email that is sent my way without a legal services request. What often happens is I forward it to the Attorney General and to the executive, the special assistant, and say, hey, this is in the form of an LSR, but I'm just letting you know that this came in and I'll be responding to it. So there's nothing that prevents myself assigned to a specific agency to respond directly to an email or a phone call if that's made. We prefer to put things in writing so that we have an idea of what the conversation, the discussion is, so that later on we are not we are not being told that we gave inconsistent advice. So we want to keep things in a professional manner so that we know what we said and what question was directed to us. So it's a matter of professionalism. It's a matter of keeping track of what is said. This is legal advice and we take it seriously.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And the departments all know who their assigned assistant AG is, and I mean, I'm just trying to better understand this process because the feedback that we were getting was puzzling to me. So, yeah.
I think most of them do know
Okay.
who to contact. It's the Attorney General.
Okay.
That's if they don't know offhand. We're always very try to be as helpful and respond quickly
Okay.
and promptly to their questions and their need for legal guidance.
Okay.
So, you know, there may not be an official memo or what that goes out to them, but there is someone that's there. There are oftentimes attorneys who handle, like myself, several agencies.
Mhm.
So we make ourselves available through email or phone call if that's necessary, and we try to get to those as soon as we can. We also issue spot to see which ones require the most attention immediately, so that we're able to do that and provide what's necessary. But you know that there's nothing to prevent that agency or the head of that particular department to give us a call and let us know what it is that they need.
Okay. Thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. Any other member for the first round? And for the second round? All right, Rep. Sablan.
Thank you for the second round. I think this should be fairly quick to answer, I hope. But I was looking at your citizen-centric report for FY 2020, and one particular number kind of stood out to me, for child support collections and the pandemic unemployment assistance offset in particular, $2,900 for the month for the year. And I know that we get PUA complaints from concerns from constituents all the time, and one of the issues that has come up again and again is people with child support. They owe child support and are trying to navigate the system between labor and finance and the Attorney General's office. So could you just address that issue? PUA is an ongoing, continuing problem, and and I think that just figuring out the child support issues for a number of our constituents has been a big barrier. Is that something that you're working with labor on?
Yeah. We don't work with labor. I know what we do. We go and collect for for children who are owed child support.
Mhm.
And it's either PUA or any other money that can be collected, we will collect them because we know that these children need support.
Right.
And so that's what we do. I mean, we know that there's money coming to a person, and we can go do a lien on that property, and we take them.
Okay. I think the issue has been like once the whatever the obligation has been satisfied, getting some kind of clearance. Is that something that comes from your office and then goes to labor? Is labor just not requesting these timely? Do you know? Is this an issue that has been raised with you before?
No, I don't think it's been raised. Most of the child support is collected because there was a court order.
Right.
And if the court order, if you paid all your obligations, your past due support,
Mhm.
I mean, the court would issue an order saying there's no further orders to be, to be enforced. And so that would be the end of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I understand that part.
Yeah.
It's just that PUA gets withheld when there is still like some pending record from I think the Attorney General's office, for child support obligations. And like if they can't get PUA money released, they wouldn't be able to continue to satisfy their child support obligations, right? So
Well, I think they could
That's-
certainly check our office to see
Yeah.
what we can do to get them cleared.
okay.
If there's I haven't heard any issues.
You
that
haven't heard.
affect-
Okay,
no.
that's
Yeah.
really what I was asking.
Yeah.
Because we have been hearing issues, but I'm not sure where the bottleneck is exactly. Maybe it's just with labor. Okay, thank you.
So, but just to your point, Mr. Chairman, about us working with Aegis on Emergency or any other time, the criminal division has an on-call attorney 24 hours, 7 days a week. And we're always open. Even in our office, we have an on-call for mental health crisis on mental health issues. And so we're always on call. We never sleep, actually, when time comes for action. So, yeah.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. We'll take one more if there's any. All right, if there's none, at this time, the committee would like to thank you, AG Manibusan, as well as your team for coming in today. From our understanding, this is the first time that the AG was called in to come before the committee, and so, it's a great opportunity for the members to, I guess, understand the whole process more and to have the AG, to have your office clarify any of the questions that they've had. And so with that, again, we'd like to thank you once again for coming in today. And if there's anything that you'd like to close with at this time, AG?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank the committee, and I invite you to come and visit with me. Of course, I apologize. There are things that I can't, not easily disclose with what's going on, but certain things that, I can disclose, I will disclose. We have an ethical obligation, so I apologize for not being able to be so helpful. But rest assured that my team is working towards, to make the Commonwealth a better place to live. Thank you for this opportunity.
All right, thank you again. All right, members, we will now recess for lunch and come back at 1 p.m. for the next agency.